Hey, first period. Today again I'm going to try another video. So let's see how this goes. It's going to be a little bit more like class. So welcome. You're going to need a pen or a pencil. So hopefully if you brought one, you're also going to need your workbook today. And go ahead and open to page 160. On page 160, you should see Lesson 8, Keeping Track of All Possible Outcomes. And it says, let's explore sample space for experiments with multiple parts. So we're going to go ahead and start with activity number 1, which is 8.1, how many different meals? So it says how many different meals are possible if each meal includes one main course, one side dish, and one drink. And then you can see all of the different options right over here. So one way to do this, which is a very visual way, is to use what's called a probability tree or tree diagram. So as I'm going through this, you should be taking notes and doing exactly what you see on each one of my screens. So the first step is to look at the first column of the table or whatever you're working with. So for example, I'm going to look at main courses. There are 3 different options for main courses. So you and I are going to go ahead and draw 3 different lines. So again, you're drawing these 3 different lines and you're going to write chicken on one of them, turkey on the other, and pasta on the last one. So again, your page should look exactly like this. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my options for side dishes. There are 2 options. So off of each one of those main course branches, I'm going to put 2 smaller branches off of each one of those options. So for chicken, I have salad or applesauce. For turkey, I could get salad or applesauce. For pasta, I could get salad or applesauce. And I've kind of color-coded these as we go step by step, but you don't need to do that if you don't want to. That last column represents the drinks, and there are 3 drink options. So off of the last 2 branches I added, each of those branches is going to have 3 smaller branches come off of it. So again, I have milk, juice, and water off that. I have milk, water, juice off here. I also have milk, juice, water off this option, milk, juice, water off this, and so on and so forth. So again, you've now created this probability tree. So you should have the exact same diagram on page 160 in your workbook. So now, based off of this probability tree, this organizational method and visual method, I can go ahead and count how many different options I have to order at this restaurant. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the outermost, smallest branches. So I know there's 3 here, another 3 here, another 3 here, another 3 here, another 3 here, and another 3 here. So it looks like I have 2, 4, 6 different groups of 3. So that means that I have 18 different meal options, right? So they're the sample space, in other words, the sample space of the different meals you can have is 18. So if I were to ask you a question about this, all of your fractions would be over 18 because that's the total amount of options you could have or the sample space. So again, you should have this written down in your workbook. There are also other ways to keep track of things when there are 2 things happening. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at 8.2, which is list, tables, and trees. So this is on the next page on 161. So on the page it says, consider the experiment. Flip a coin and then roll a number cube. So 2 different things are happening at one time. We have Elena, Kieran, and Priya each using a different method for finding the sample space of this experiment. You have Elena, who has just listed all of the different outcomes. So you could flip heads, and you could roll 1. You could flip heads and roll a 2. You could flip heads and roll a 3. You could flip heads and roll a 4. You could flip heads and roll a 5. And you could flip heads and roll a 6. And you could do all the same thing, but with tails as well. Kieran takes a different approach and makes a table. So he has all the numbers on the die, 1 through 6 here, and he has the 2 different options for the heads or tails here. So you could flip heads and roll a 1, flip heads and roll a 2. The last way, which we just practiced, is the probability tree, or tree diagram, which is what Priya decided to use. Again, she starts out with 2 branches, because when you flip a coin, you have a 50% chance of landing on heads and a 50% chance of landing on tails. And from each one of those, you have the option of rolling a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So for question number 1, it says, compare the 3 methods. What is the same about each method? What is different? Be prepared to explain why each method produces all the different outcomes without repeating any. So you're going to go ahead and answer that in your workbook. The second question is, which method do you prefer for this situation? Pause here so your teacher can review your work. And you're going to go ahead and just type in your response and the Edpuzzle in just a second. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at problem number 3, question number 3. So for 3A, the experiment is flipping a dime, then flipping a nickel, then flipping a penny. Record whether each lands heads or tails up. So for number 3, we need to find the sample space for each of these experiments using any method. So we could create a list, we could create a table, or we could make a tree. Make sure you list every possible outcome without repeating any. So for 3A, we're going to go ahead and make another tree diagram so we can practice again. So again, I'm going to use some color coding because that helps me out. So again, the first color I'm going to use is green. When you flip a dime, you can either get heads or tails. Then, when you flip a nickel, you can also get either heads or tails. Again, you can either get heads or tails for heads on the first flip, or you could get heads or tails for tails on the second flip. Then we have the penny that we're going to flip, which again, there's 2 options for each penny. So you could do heads or tails for the heads that you flipped on the nickel, heads or tails for the tails that you flipped on the nickel, and same goes for all of these options over here. So just like we did for the restaurant and the different options for the meals, we can go ahead and count the outermost, smallest branches of our probability tree. So again, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means that my sample space for this problem is 8, or there's 8 different options or outcomes. Again, you're taking notes and doing this in your notebook. For B, 3B, Hans' closet has a blue shirt, a gray shirt, white shirt, blue pants, khaki pants, and black pants. He must select 1 shirt and 1 pair of pants to wear for the day. Because there are 2 options here, either pants or shirts, this would be a good one to create a table. So I would go ahead and draw this table into your workbook. This top row represents the shirts, so our blue shirt, our gray shirt, and our white shirt. And this lighter green over here represents the pants, the blue pants, the khaki pants, and the black pants. Now you can go ahead and start filling this out. So I can put BB for blue pants, blue shirt. I can put BG for blue pants, gray shirt. I can put this should be W, my bad. Or you can put BW for blue pants and white shirt. So go ahead and finish completing this table for that problem. And then you can answer the sample space is blank. So again, how you would figure that out is just by going back to your table and counting each one of the options that could be possible, the total options. For 3C, you're going to spin a color, then you are going to spin a number. There are 4 different color options and there are 5 different number options. So for this one, I'm going to list all the possible options. So I could spin a yellow, roll a 1, spin a yellow, roll a 2, spin a yellow, roll a 3, spin a yellow, roll a 4, and so on. So again, the sample space is blank, and you can go back and you can count each one and see how many total outcomes there are. For problem 3D, spin an hour hand on an analog clock, then choose AM or PM. Again, this is a great option for a table since there's two options, AM or PM. So go ahead and draw this table and go ahead and complete the table. Again, the sample space is blank. Go back to your table and count. For the last activity, 8.4, how many sandwiches? For question 1, it reads, a submarine sandwich shop makes sandwiches with one kind of bread, one protein, one choice of cheese, and 2 vegetables. How many different sandwiches are possible? Explain your reasoning. You do not need to write out this sample space. So by that, it means you don't need to list them out, you don't need to draw a probability tree, and you don't want to make a table. And that's because there's going to be way too many options, so it's not going to be the best method. So another method that you can use is multiplication. So if we go back to our first example from activity 8.1, how many different meals, if you see that there are 3 main courses, 2 side dishes, and 3 drinks. If you multiply 3 times 2, you're going to get 6. And 6 times 3 is going to give you that 18 different meal options. Again, so we can use that idea of multiplication in this activity as well. So there are 3 pieces of bread. There are 4 different options for protein. There are 4 different options for cheese. And there are 5 different options for vegetables. The trick is that you can get 2 vegetables, so we need to represent 5 2 times. So for this one, instead of drawing a table or listing everything, we're going to go ahead and try the multiplication method. So we're going to multiply 3 for the 3 breads, times 4 for the 4 proteins, times 4 for the 4 cheeses, times 5 for the vegetables, times another 5 to represent that second set of vegetables for that option. And good catch that I didn't spell proteins correctly. So go ahead and multiply that out and you should get your response in the sample space for the sandwiches. Then you're going to go ahead and answer question number 2 as well as question 3 in your workbook. Hopefully that was helpful. Probability trees are one of my favorite things because they're pretty straightforward. So hopefully you enjoyed and learned something. You'll also be practicing this tomorrow either on Khan Academy or Freckle. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, text me, find me on Instagram and DM me, anything. Anyways, hopefully you learned something new. I hope to see you all either on Zoom or maybe during our last assembly. Bye.